Awesome. Very welcome to this new episode of our Sounds Like Sustainability Conversations. We're doing this kind of embracing all the people from the IECA community, the International Environmental Communication Association, but we're doing this especially today with the idea to, create a bit of a broader scope on sustainability communication and dive deeper into the area of science communication, sustainability sciences, and create some learnings about regularities and irregularities of communication and how it happens in those two fields. So I'm absolutely grateful and very excited that Anna is here. Before I will ask you to introduce yourself a bit and tell us a bit about yourself and your interests, I always start with a question, which is related to the title of this series of conversations, the sound. And to create a bit of a connection to you and the environment you're in at the moment, I would like to ask you, is there any specific sound around you so that you hear and that you somehow link to sustainability? So is there anything that you can hear or see that you want to share that connects us to the place where you are?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Francesca, for inviting me. I really like this project. Sounds like a sustainability. It's a very not virtual place to listen and know other people what they think about sustainability. And it's a very important discussion. Right now, I am in my office at the university, at the National School of Higher Education in Morelia, in Mexico. We are located in the central western part of Mexico, and it's not hot and it's not noisy. There's not a lot of, it's a quiet place here outside of the city, and I can listen some birds, no? So I think the bird song is a symbolic way to think about sustainability, because it recalls me to the Rachel Carson book of Silent Spring and the importance that the nature sounds and the bird songs have in nature, no? So
Thanks for sharing that. And it's spring in Europe, so there are not too many birds around at the moment, but they're coming back. I've heard them coming back. So, and it's definitely a sound that that helps us to connect with nature. So,
yeah, and also I have another sound also that thinking about sounds and sustainability. I think that the swell of the waves in the sea is a sound that recalls me to sustainability idea. I mean, it's a sound that endures and sustains through time. And these waves have been here in the planet through millions and millions of years and continues to live on, no? So that sound is really also like a sustainability sound.
Thanks for sharing that. It makes me miss the ocean a bit more, being located in Vienna. Tell us a bit about yourself. And I do have a couple of questions related to, especially your PhD program, which was Sustainability Sciences. So tell us a bit about you, what you do, and your research interests.
Yeah, I have a background in biology, and then I did a master's degree in marine ecology in northwestern Mexico, in Ensenada, Baja California. And then I have been working a lot in science communication as a science communicator many years of my life. I have been also working on environmental education. And then, like 13 years ago, I become an associate professor here at the university, at the National University Autonomous of Mexico. And I teach in 2 undergraduate programs related to environmental sciences and also in science for sustainability materials. So it's a different area. And I'm part of a big community of very engaged professors with real change in our community and in our region. So that's me. And also I do some radio program weekly here in a local radio, and also I run a science coffee program at the university every month. So it's a space, also a space here to discuss, reflect, and talk about many related topics with science and society, or science in society, or science for society.
I love that. And we will definitely talk about those spaces and why it is so important to talk about science and about sustainability and why we need the spaces there. And I will definitely talk about community and what I find really unique when you speak and talk about your university, how you and your colleagues are really interested in engaging the community and see yourself as kind of having impact in this community, which is really relevant for us. Before we do that, I just want to create some consistency with the conversations we had before in terms of asking you, what is sustainability? So what is sustainability from your perspective? How do you talk about it? How do you use the term? Or is it like a no term?
Yeah, well, sustainability for me is an idea, but also is a process. And for that many of us are part of. Maybe sometimes we are aware of this process, and maybe sometimes we are not aware of this process, but all are involved in the development of this idea and this sustainability issue, no? I have been aware that some students and some part of the society is not like, oh, no, we don't like that kind of sustainability, when it becomes greenwashing or an empty idea, or an idea just to sell things more expensive, or to create an idea that we are being very green or very ecological, but it's not true. And sometimes also here in Mexico, these international agendas, like for example, the ODS, no, the sustainability objectives or the sustainability goals, sometimes are very criticized in some ways, no?
Why that?
Because it's a huge goal. The first objective or the first goal is like eradicate pobreza. How do you say this?
Poverty. Yeah.
Poverty. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Poverty. So it's a big task, and we are having this fight against poverty. But in Latin America context and in our country, in Mexico, we have a lot of tasks and challenges to how to solve this wicked problem like poverty and inequity. So yeah, so that's, but I think sustainability is a good idea and a process which takes a long time and a long compromise with many parts.
And if you did your PhD in an area that was called sustainability sciences, which is a really interesting term. Like, what is sustainability sciences? What does it embrace?
Well, it's also from our point of view, is a different way of doing research. Because, well, we have this definition that is an emerging field of research. It's a type of research that has been here around at least the last decades, and addresses the interactions between natural and social systems and how these interactions affect the challenge of sustainability. and it has taken in an account social, cultural, economic, and environmental values. Sustainability is not only environmental issues, but also a lot of other things, no? And it's a discipline on its own right. With scientific conference, we have many journals now related to sustainability issues, and is characterized more by its research rather than by a common set of methods or objectives. And also, it has a very strong way to think about in a transdisciplinary way. It invites in to build collaborative teams, no? You are not only scientists working on a scientific problem. You have to open your visions, your ears, and start doing research with people, for the people. So we have this transdisciplinary sustainability science that is very, very interesting. And I like this really a lot.
And so if you say it's not like one topical area, but it's much more because it taps into so many spaces, from like social issues to environmental issues. And then on the other hand, the research is done in a different way because it needs to be transdisciplinary. It needs to be collaborative and participatory. Would you then say also the teaching, or does it also affect your teaching? Because we talked about this in the previous conversation, that teaching sustainability or sustainability education is also different, or it needs to be different. Did you make those experiences as well?
Yes. We have a model that we are looking to strengthen, and is situated with real problems. So, for example, right now in this semester, I teaching with other colleagues ejercicio de integración, integrating knowledge and applying all the knowledge that our students has in a real problem situation. So it implies that our students got to go outside of the classroom, outside of the university, and start interacting with their neighbors or people who are living in real problems, no? So in this process, you notice that maybe as a scientist, you can identify one problem. But if you go outside in the real world, the problem is different, or it has different aspects that you haven't identified from the university, or just with a simple view for, say, this, no? So it is important also to acknowledge that we are surrounded by weak problems, and this weak problem doesn't have one solution or one simple solution. It involves a lot of different aspects of society, different actors, different realities, different contexts. So we need to learn to be aware of them, all of them, no?
Do all the students like that, to actually go out there, knock on the people's doors, and really get into the real world? Is everyone on board of that?
Yeah, I think so. Most of the students are happy because they have this feeling that they have the opportunity to try to solve something with the people, no? So that's fine. And also they are part of all the citizens, no? So maybe they are working with their neighbors and they are trying to solve a problem that is also important for them, not only as a scientist or as students, but also as a citizens. So it's a very nice practice.
Yeah, it is. And I think we're doing this not enough at all. But not too much self-critique here. But you said before that the Sustainable Development Goals are something that is often criticized as like an empty framework, or too abstract and empty terminology somehow.
But also not, maybe not empty at all, but also from a very vertical perspective, no? Also.
And this is really where my question would lead to. Tell us a bit about the context in Mexico and how sustainability is something that you think about as an academic or in a university setting, or is this something that you can find, I don't know, in advertisement or on products, or people actually talking about it, or people linking their own behavior to it? Is it like a well-known term, or is it still more kind of like, yeah, well,
No.
vertically introduced, top
No,
down?
yes, of course, we have many politics about sustainability. Our country is compromised with all the laws and international treaties on sustainability, and we are definitely working together as country on the sustainability way. But how we understand and talk about sustainability, that's a problem, no? We have the federal government, the state government, and the municipalities, the local government. So sometimes we have good examples of pursuing that sustainability, but most of the examples are just like empty and bizarre idea, or yes, we are going to be more sustainability in 2030, for example. But we have the problems we are living in are the same or even worsening, no? We have, for example, the Tren Maya in the Yucatan Peninsula that is not very sustainable at all. And there's a big discussion. We have big problems. Here in Michoacán, we are in the state full of natural and environmental challenges. We are living in a hydric crisis, or big lakes like Cuitzeo, Pátzcuaro are getting drier, and the problem is getting worse, and it's not very a sustainable way to think or to manage the water resources, no?
So I
But
think this is sorry for jumping in
yeah,
here, because
yeah.
I think this is really where science communication and sustainability communication meet. If those lakes are getting dry and people are seeing, feeling, experiencing the drought, then this is really where the information around it and the information or the communication about, okay, how can things be done differently in a more sustainable way meet. What are your learnings from science communication things? Is there anything that works really well? Are people educated well in terms of water as a resource, water usage? Or like, how does science communication work in this case of this water crisis?
Well, before answering that, I was going to share an idea that we have with other colleagues, no? If we are talking about a different way to do science or to doing research, I think it's very important to think about different ideas or ways to do communication also. We are thinking in doing more collaborative research or research with people. We talk about citizen sciences, for example, but I think we need also to think about another ways of communicating, no? Maybe in a more intercultural perspective, or building messages with the people, with the affected people, no? And also the idea or process of sustainability here in Mexico, it represents also some kind of resistance. It's the only way that people who is defending their good, the common goods, are the only way they think about sustainability as the only way to recover this, no? We have many local communities, many indigenous people trying to fight and defend their own right for nature, for water, for wildlife. And is really a lot of tensions here in Mexico and the rest of countries in Latin America.
So there were two aspects that I found really interesting. One is, do people actually need to be more, I don't know, do they feel like, is it the case that if people feel, I'm resistant, I'm going against it, I'm going against those, I don't know, politicians or big corporates or whatever, is this needed for people to actually get involved in those issues, to actually get moving?
Yeah, not needed. I don't think it's a request, but we have a lot of social problems in Mexico, and it's a real fight, no? There must be another ways to do this, by more personal or more familiar, no? Changing your ways of, the ways you consume, the ways you buy things, the ways you transport from school or from university or from work to home. So of course, by individual, by personally, we can make a lot of change. But in a collective action or in the collective wave, there's many small battles in Mexico happening right now, no? And for this reason, we need to strengthen this collaboration between academia, universities, social actors, organizations, politicians, journalists, science communicators, environmental communicators, everyone, to try to do this real challenge, this systematic challenge that we need to transform our relation with nature or our relation with ecosystems, no?
So I think this is really where we can end the dialogue and open the floor up a bit, with maybe like one final question from my side. I would be really interested in your experiences in doing this radio program, your science coffee, or and how this principle of engaging the community, bringing people together, social actors, academics, and all that, how this plays out in this science coffee, or like this program or this format, this space.
Well, for example, next week we are going to have the first science coffee from this year, the 2025. And at the beginning of the year, I started listening in radio and news that we are celebrating 50 years of the discovery of this forest, very important forest in Michoacán, where the monarch butterflies migrate from all the way from Canada, United States to Mexico, no? It's a long story. In United States and Canada, people didn't know where the butterflies go, no? And then 50 years ago, someone discovered that all those butterflies that were northern, they ended here in Mexico, in Michoacán. So this is a very special migration. And now we have a lot of programs around this insect and this phenomenon of the migration. And we have a lot of initiatives about conservation, no? So in a traditional way, I can invite to this science coffee only academics or researchers who are doing for many years research in the butterfly biosphere reserve. But now for this science coffee that we're going to have next week, I decided to invite people involved in some ways in the conservation of the monarch butterflies. Not only scientists, we have one students or a master students here at the university participating, but also we invite a woman who is the is a representative or a collective tourist guide of local in the community over there in the mountains that the monarch lives. And also is another guy coming for the Science Coffee who is involved in a foundation working for conservation. So I like to give the floor to many different voices and experiences to talk about this monarch migration. And we can also talk about the biology of the migration and the biology of the monarch butterfly and the importance of the forest, but also it's important to listen about the perspective of an tourism perspective or a conservation perspective, no? I mean, we have to recognize or acknowledge the different voices or point of views that are involved in this long history of natural history and conservation in Mexico.
Cool. Thanks for sharing the story. Wow, cool. I totally did not know that. So I'm really and it's such a great way to show how important it is to tell the story, but if you tell a story, to include all those different perspectives on conservation, on like what is actually happening there, and offering all these backgrounds. But I will zip for a moment and ask if there are any other questions or aspects that we should talk about.
Yes, I wanted to share also a different way and understanding of sustainability.
Yes, please.
We have many programs at university studying sustainability sciences, but different aspects of sustainability in different universities in our country, like energy sustainability, conservation, wildlife and sustainability, science for development, sustainability and tourism. We have also another program focused on city, territory and sustainability. So in Veracruz, we have programs in transdisciplinary studies of sustainability or for sustainability, no? So, and some universities in Mexico have adopted different programs as part of their politics and governance or organization around sustainability. But one very interesting aspect that I really like to share with you is a specific group of indigenous people in Puebla, who is the Macehual or the Nahuatl people in the Sierra Norte de Puebla. They understand the world from the Yacnemilis. Yacnemilis means the good living or buen vivir, no? Or buen vivir in Latin America. The Macehual are a group of free men and women proud of their identity and their territory, and they have the freedom to create new ways of organizing and honoring their deities based on their beliefs. And the Yecnimilis is a concept that means good life. Under this idea, they mobilize their collectives to improve the quality of life of each person, maintain their cultural identity, and preserve a harmonious relationship with Earth. They don't talk about sustainability at all, but they think, they feel, and they act around this idea of Yecnimilis. It's not only a critique of the capitalist system, but they promote this practice of other forms of community exercise, alternatives to development, in taking into account intergenerational, interspecific, or interbiotic, and intercultural correspondence. So for me, it's a very complete or round way to understand and try to live in another way, no? And they are very familiar with participatory processes. The members of the village reflect on their dreams for the land in the next 4 years. They come together and start imagining how it is, no? Of course, it's not easy, as you can imagine, because participatory processes they bring also a lot of challenges, no, in human relationships. Their local knowledge is very valued and is always dialogue with other flavors, values, and love for nature, with a broad respect for the customs that identify them as native people. So I think we have a lot to learn from some native people and indigenous people in the way they understand, and they are trying to transform and looking for alternatives of living in this planet, no?
Yeah, I love that. And it's interesting how this how sustainability is a principle that is lived in so many different cultural contexts without labeling it as sustainability. And in Africa, Ubuntu, and I think like Japan, Asian cultures, like wherever you look at, people have an idea of what is the good life or good living. And this is a very strong way to interpret or look at sustainability, going far deeper than all those frameworks or claims and big narratives of innovation and that are out there or publicized in the media. So thanks so much for sharing that and linking sustainability as a principle of action to the locality, to the context where it actually happens.
Exactly. And a few months ago, I have the opportunity to talk with some of them, and I asked them, well, why you don't think about sustainability? Why Yeknemilis, no? And they said, we don't need that word. Sustainability is just far away from us, no? We are working and thinking on this idea of the good life, la buena vida, that implies a lot of things, no? Education, ethics, respect, solidarity, and alternative ways to be nice and be good in this planet for all the people, no? And many of our students are doing some field research, and some of our classes from here, we took a student to this community in Puebla and in other parts of Mexico also. Michoacán has also a lot of indigenous communities that they think similar, no? Like, as you say, in Africa and other parts of the world, there's a lot of visions to learn from there about sustainability and how to deal with these wicked problems.
Thank you. Are there any other questions in the room in this space that we created here?
Yeah, I have a question.
Yeah, okay, no, you.
Okay, so first of all, thank you for sharing with us these aspects about sustainability. My name is Luciana. I'm Brazilian, but I'm living in Portugal. And I'd like to ask for Ana, how do you see the internalization or perception about sustainability in Latin American countries by society? Because when we look at 4 countries in Latin America, we can see different perspective about the perception of sustainability. And when we look at 4 region, what your perception about this internalization, how we can promote more engagement with Latin American countries about sustainability, what we need to do to push this approach with them.
It's a very nice question, very interesting question. I mean, in Latin America, there is a wide heterogeneity and many, many different problems rooted in our history, no? A lot of inequality, social inequality, poverty, a lack of education sometimes, or the programs of the education are not very strong. And plus, if this idea of sustainability comes from the no bottom up, the no bottom up,
Top down.
top down, thank you. Top down idea is more difficult to appropriate this idea. So I think we need to construct or to build these sustainability processes or idea from the bottom up, from our local cultures and from our what is happening in our local context. And then we are recognizing that our societies and our cultures also have been sustainable in certain ways, no? For like this example of Jack Nemilis. In some sense, is sustainability way of life, but they don't use this word. And they consider Jack Nemilis a very special and value way of life. So in Mexico, also in Mexico, there is not the same country in northern Mexico than central Mexico and in South Mexico. There's a wide variety of ideas, understanding, and approaching about sustainability. So I can understand now why this is a resistance to adopt international terms and put it, making shape in local terms, no? I don't know if I answered your question.
Yes, very clear. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Luciana.
Yeah, thank you also from my side for these insights. Very interesting. I would be interested in how you proceed to involve the local communities into your research projects. Like, how do you approach them? Because I can imagine they have a very different culture and also different language. And like you said, the northern part of Mexico is different to the southern part, and there must be many different local communities. So how do you find out how to go there, how to tackle them in an appropriate and nice way so that they don't feel offended?
Well, it's a very interesting question also. The most familiar research project that I have now is here in Michoacán. We are working in this Purépecha community, and the Purépecha is a local culture, and there's a language. I have not studied Purépecha, and although I have been living in Michoacán for 20 years, I don't understand Purépecha, and it's a shame. No, I would like to have more time dedicated to learn some words in Purépecha. But also the Purépecha people are they are open. It's a indigenous community, but they are not isolated. They come to Morelia, they come and study at the university, and also we have a university indigenous university intercultural, sorry, in Michoacán and in the rest of the country. So there are a lot of people in San Francisco Pichátaro, which is this community in Purépecha, that are studying master's degree, PhD degrees, and they are also, as us, people very engaged and compromised with their own local problems. So most of the research projects that happen with these communities are for invitation. They come to the university, or they know some professors or other youths, and they say, hey, I would like you to come and collaborate trying to solve this in our local community. So here at my university, there is a group of people working with different research projects in this Purépecha community. So it's very fluent and they are very open, and they are very welcome of course, we need to build this trust and this dialogue and this collaboration over time, no? So I can go many times to San Francisco Pichataro, visit them, and they can come also to Morelia and work together in this. But one value that I really value is that the local community, not only in Michoacán, but in many parts of Mexico, they have their own local radio communities, no? The indigenous communities, and their own way to communicate environmental issues. So it's very interesting and go and learn and interchange some points of view and point of doing the asking questions, no? And trying to solve common problems.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
But it's a really interesting one because it leads us back to where we started. Research is conceptualized from the beginning very differently because it's not about, oh, nice research object, let's analyze, but it's really about, okay, listening, going there, creating collaborations over time, and relying on the connections that are already there, because there was like there's a professor, there's a student that has been there before. So, and then what I hear is that research is a lot about problem solving.
Exactly. Yeah.
Which is the very
very problem solving oriented, no? To apply all the knowledge to try to do something to change our realities or change the problem.
I have additional
Christiana, yeah,
questions.
sure.
And in your point of view, how committed are private companies to communicate their achievements or their objectives to sustainability in Mexico?
Thank you for the question. I read early in the morning your post, Francisca, about IKEA, and I have a couple of IKEA in Mexico. They opened a huge, it's going to be the first IKEA store in Mexico. The biggest one is located in Guadalajara, here.
Okay.
And they opened it in December last year. And wow, what's a lot of controversy because we have this big mass store, not local, but from other country in Guadalajara with a huge parking lot with a lot of concrete, no trees, no shade, nothing. No, it's just like come and shop with us. And then I was observing in social networks a lot of workers in IKEA Mexico were complaining about the treat. They was telling that the work in IKEA was not social justice, blah, blah, blah. I know the IKEA international message, and they sell themselves as a private company that are engaged with the environment and very, very green and blah, blah, blah. But here in Mexico, when they come and open this store, it's just no way. It's totally complete other things that we're looking in IKEA. And then what will be the impact of the local furniture stores in Mexico and the relationship that IKEA can have with all these local companies or not, no? In Mexico, we have very beautiful furniture. We have people who are building furniture from our local woods, or we have community forest management in Mexico, and we care of our forests. And when you go to IKEA, I think where this old wood comes from and what's the impact that IKEA can have or cannot have in our social economy, no? So yeah, the private companies in Mexico are not very open to communicate the really compromise to sustainability. I mean, all this sustainability thinking in social, economics, and environment, no? And then, yes, we are trying to question all these models of doing business, no? Taking into account sustainability, social justice, and local economies, how these big stores can affect or not the local companies and the local products. I have a good friend who lives in Mexico City, and she makes some arrangement at her home and put some pictures of her new furniture in Facebook. And I say, wow, it's very beautiful. Your house is beautiful. You bought your furniture in IKEA? And she says, no. I asked for a carpenter to build my furniture, and I rather pay for this person who is local, which I try to benefit his economy, rather to go to IKEA and buy some things, no? I say, oh, wow, nice, no? So it's a
Yeah,
tricky, it's a tricky.
It's a tricky one. It's a tricky one, and I really take it on because I think it's a very important discussion, and I think it's very much needed to talk more about it, like what can big corporates do in terms of their communication, because yes, this is absolutely kind of horrible, and it's very different compared to what IKEA does, for example, in Austria, where it's more established, where they can really do kind of great issue management because they are so present that they can really raise issues that are rather invisible because of their standing. But by the same time, I totally agree, if it then gets too just plugged in a region without any connections as to what is happening in the country, then this is really something very similar to a expert lay communication gap. If an academic speaks to people and everyone's like, what the heck, I don't understand, I don't get a connection here. So I think there is something that it is a two, there are two sides to this coin, because corporates have done a lot in terms of raising awareness, driving the discourse, but of course now kind of it's not only it's dominated by the business narrative still, the whole sustainability discourse. And then, of course, if there's a lack of those lines to land, as Florentina and I sometimes think about it, if those lines to land are not created in corporate communication or their strategic communication in their doing, then this is where it gets really tricky. So thanks for sharing this example.
Yeah, I of course I really like IKEA furniture, but I imagine that IKEA must be another reality in Sweden, in Australia, and other countries rather than Mexico. No?
Yeah, absolutely. And it's the same with like big retailers, big shops like Aldi, for example. It's a big, like they do, it's a food store, and it had a really bad image, being a very cheap shop, like really rubbish stuff just kind of put out in the store. And in Austria, they worked on a regionalization strategy. So they relied on regional products, and they made this really strong, not just as a marketing exercise, but really kind of working with local farmers and all that. So that worked really well in Austria. And now they are a whole kind of, not just a store, but like a really big corporate doing really well in sustainability terms. However, the same company working in Australia, a regionalization strategy wouldn't work, because food needs to be transported thousands of miles, because there's no area where all the food is available, where everything grows. So, the same concept works really well in this country, where they can, create those links and connections to the local community or the locality or the region there, but then it doesn't really work in Mexico. It doesn't really work in Australia. So this cultural perspective on corporate communication is something that, at least this is what sustainability really tells us and teaches us to think more about those cultural and local aspects.
Exactly. And also, I think a very key concept is diversity. We need to sustain the
Yeah.
diversity of all cultures, the diversity of all languages, the diversity of everything. So if we are trying to homogenize the way we buy things, the way we think, the way we communicate is not enough. I don't think that's the way we're following. We like the diversity of the world, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And apologize my big laugh out here. We're recording this in February 25, and this is a time where it gets really tricky in terms of diversity issues and diversity programs, especially in the United States. And it's kind of coming over to Europe, and I think this is why
I understand.
this issue is a bit interesting and will definitely be part of this conversations. So yeah, thanks for opening the door for another very important issue. Thinking about diversity from a biodiversity perspective and from a cultural diversity perspective. So thanks for doing that and really creating opportunities for another conversation on that in the sustainability context. I'm very grateful, Anna.
Thank you.
That
Thank
was
you,
very inspiring.
Thank
So
you,
many
Luciana.
amazing examples. And again, a lot of learnings. Thanks everyone for being here today. And this was a great conversation.
It was a pleasure, as always, to chat with you, Francisca. I learned a lot about you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.